So hi, everybody. My name is Laura Benegatti. I am the co-founder and CEO of the ArtBound Initiative program. So what ArtBound Initiative is that we are a program that connects students and fresh grads with creative companies in different locations all around the world. We offer courses around professional development as well as internships in the field, a community, events, and resources. And so it's in this capacity that we're doing this workshop today, because we are always trying to provide as much content and insider content with really cool people and senior people in this industry to not only our participants, but also students and fresh grads all around the world. So welcome to this career workshop on how to nail the recruitment process. In terms of the event and how it's going to go, and I'm going to introduce our speaker very soon. The event is going to go as follows. We're going to chat. We're going to have, a lot of, I'm sure, great insights from our chat with Vanessa Dolan, who I'm going to introduce, who is a senior recruiter. We'll talk a lot about, recruitment, LinkedIn, how to apply, AI, all your questions that you might have about this, okay? At about the half hour or so, I will do a short break to introduce also ArtBound Initiative for about 10 minutes. I think I have some returning here participants, so bear with me on that, because you already know about the program, but some of you all don't. And then we'll go back to the Q&A. So that's how the session is going to go. So Vanessa, thank you so much for being here. Of course, I would like to introduce you first. So Vanessa Dolan, who's here with us today, has 20 plus years of experience gained from the advertising sector, working in senior executive roles. Her in-depth understanding of the advertising and marketing, design and digital, both from actually a local and international perspective, ensures that your career aspirations are well understood. She will definitely know what to say and how to answer. And right now, Vanessa is focusing on recruiting talent for the corporate and government sector, design studios, and digital advertising and marketing agencies. Vanessa also has been a coach with ArtBound. How many years has it been, Vanessa?
4.
4 years. Oh my God, time flies by, and we're so honored and so appreciative to all the incredible work that you've been doing with our participants, guiding them through. So thank you for being here, Vanessa.
Thank you for having me. I love doing these events. I really enjoy it. So, and thank you so much for the introduction. To give you a little bit more background from me. So I'm currently located in Melbourne, Australia. And as Laura said, I have worked in advertising agencies for 25 years. And that's been all around the world. So in Australia, Amsterdam, New York, and the Middle East. After my career in advertising, I did move into creative recruitment, which was a logical move, moving into creative recruitment. So for the last 8 years, I have placed thousands of candidates in creative roles in graphic design, digital design, 3D, and motion design. And as Laura said, alongside recruitment for the past 4 years, I have been coaching hundreds of graduates with mock interviews, folio reviews, and LinkedIn tips. So the great thing about today is that we're going to cover some of those points. So you'll get my insider knowledge into some of those points.
Love that. And thank you for doing this, Vanessa. I think a lot of people have questions, about recruitment and what people are looking for. I think, maybe what we'd love to hear from you is that I think the fear of a lot of students and fresh grads is that, when people are recruiting, they're seeing hundreds of applications, right? And like sometimes thousands of applications. So maybe if you can tell us a little bit about, what are your thoughts on what recruiters are looking for in terms of, juniors, right? Because they don't have much experience quite yet, right? So are there any things that they can do to stand apart, and to kind of separate themselves a little bit from those thousands of applications that you're reviewing yourself as a recruiter?
Yeah, look, I think there's two main things that stand out for me, and one is having a LinkedIn profile. I know LinkedIn may be new to all of you, but really it's a CV or resume that sits there and works there for you. Yeah. all of your information you've done on a CV, let's translate that over to LinkedIn so that it's actually sitting there and working for you. Make sure that the profile picture is up to date. Make sure that there's a background image, all your contact information, maybe not a mobile phone number, but your latest email address there. And as I said, fill in all the blanks in LinkedIn on the jobs that you have done, even if they were internships, even if they were working part-time roles. Fill it all in. That's key to actually have a LinkedIn profile and a presence. I think the
I
next
love
thing the next thing that is really key for creative graduates is a website. And that doesn't need to be really in depth. It needs to be very, very basic. It should have your contact information. It should have a slide there on the information about you, your about you page with a nice picture there. And that picture should relate back to the one that you're going to use on LinkedIn. Yeah. And then a page there to actually showcase your work. And it should be really clear, the work. It should say, what the brief was and how you answered it. And it doesn't need to be work that you have done commercially. It can be all the work that you've done at uni, but it really needs to be relevant and concise and informative.
Right, right. So really so basically, reformulating what you're saying is like the necessity of having a very complete LinkedIn profile, right? I think that's a mistake that a lot of, our participants, for example, they come into the program and they arrive, they have no LinkedIn, or they have a LinkedIn profile that doesn't have a photo and there's like 3 connections, it's not
Yeah.
filled out. So you're saying that's really important for recruiters to actually take people seriously, right?
It is, even because a lot of the jobs, one, will be advertised on LinkedIn, and you will have to apply via your LinkedIn profile, also adding your CV and your folio link. So that's going to be how you are going to apply for roles. Even if you're applying for a role that is not advertised via LinkedIn, we are looking on your CV. We will then go to LinkedIn to see your profile. We'll copy your name from your CV and see if you're on LinkedIn and see if there is more to see. We are all very creative. We do want to see things visually, which is what you look like and what your background is on LinkedIn, and also to see a folio. We're very creative. We need to see. Yeah.
Right, right. That makes sense. So tell us a little bit more about like, maybe because I think LinkedIn is a bit daunting, and I feel like in some ways, it's a platform that a lot of students and fresh grads don't necessarily know how to navigate,
Yeah.
best utilize it. So maybe how do you, do you have any tips for students and fresh grads on how to best utilize LinkedIn to find, jobs and to apply for jobs?
Definitely. So once you've set up your profile, and it is actually really easy, LinkedIn will take you through what you need to fill out. Once you have done that, then start looking for companies that you would love to work for on LinkedIn, because they will have a company presence. Yeah. And then follow those companies on LinkedIn. So when these companies have job opportunities, that's going to be the first place that they post them, is going to be on LinkedIn. So then if the company that you would really love to work for is looking for a junior or an internship, you will know that straight away because you're following the company. Yeah. You can also, once you're following these companies, they will be posting things. You can like it and interact with it. You can see connect with other people in your alumni or your coaches, which are all in the industry. Um, Also look outside of LinkedIn, Google recruiters in your industry that are in your country or state or region that you're wanting to work in, and then go back on LinkedIn and follow those recruiters, because those recruiters are going to be having jobs and they are going to be posting them on LinkedIn in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one question about the LinkedIn. So obviously you have also So I love the advice of like following the companies, making sure that you're staying put with them, because you're right, that's exactly how they're gonna be posting. And also they will see that you follow their company, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
right? When you apply with
yeah.
the plus. How about the job search itself on LinkedIn? Like when you are like looking for jobs, like is easy apply working? Like is it, or do you feel like graduates can they just apply on LinkedIn, or should they also send emails as well to the recruiters outside of that? Like what's your experience?
Yeah, if there's a job there, then apply for it and make sure that you're following the company beforehand, because you said correctly, Laura, if somebody applies for a job with me and they're following my company, that'll be the first thing that comes up. They'll say, Laura's applying for this junior graphic designer role and she is actually following your company. So that's called bonus points. Yeah, it is great to be following the company there. Um, I wouldn't I wouldn't apply for the job and then contact the recruiter and send a message, because it's just way too much.
Yeah.
Um, and most recruiters will get back to you. You will get an answer through LinkedIn, whether you've been successful. So don't overburden the recruiter or the hiring manager with too many messages. I think apply for the role. If you haven't had any feedback after 2 weeks, maybe then send them a message and ask them if the recruiting process is over and if you've been successful or not. Because understand, if we as a recruiter or a hiring manager do have hundreds or thousands of applications, it does take us a long time to get through them. But you don't want to send too many messages to the recruiter. It's too much. If you think about that, then it could be 300 other people are also sending them messages as well, and that's overwhelming. So yeah.
Right, of course. Do you ever let's talk truthfully and let's be real, because you're a recruiter and you're getting solicited a lot. Do you ever respond to those messages? Like,
I personally do, because the reason that I got into recruitment is that I wasn't happy with the recruitment process. I
okay,
was ghosted, and I personally do get back to everybody. It's a quick reply.
yeah,
But yeah, I think there's really something in following the companies that you're applying for, because they will come up first. And we do see that as a recruiter, that you're following us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Following the company, or even following the recruiter or the
right,
hiring manager.
right.
Um, so it really is about having presence. I know people that I'm connected to that like my posts, and then when they apply for a role, I'm like, yeah, I'm familiar with this name, I'm familiar with this person. I'm going to spend a little bit more time because I've interacted with them before.
I love that. I love that. And I know that you found some jobs for our previous participants as well. So thank you for that. So I have more questions for you, but I have a question from Justin in the chat who's saying, what are
Sure.
some creative ways that you can use LinkedIn to stand out? Maybe if you have some tips, because of course all the LinkedIn profiles kind of look the same, right? So anything that maybe tips and, tips that you might have for us.
I really think just a complete profile is going to stand out, because some people either don't put in a background image, so you just get that grayscale one, which doesn't look creative. They have weird and wonderful profile pictures where I can't actually see what they look like. But the most important thing that I get disappointed about is when I click on their contact information and they're a creative and there's no folio. There's no website.
Right.
Yeah. Because, we're if you understand that we have hundreds of applications for a job, I probably spend, and I'll be honest, 1 minute assessing somebody's profile. And that will
Yeah.
be, have they sent me a CV? Have they sent me a folio? Where are they located? And have they done this role before, or have they got that experience? If they're only have been a barista, then I'm not going to take much more time to have a look at their profile if they're looking for a graphic designer role. if you're a UX and UI designer and you're applying for a graphic designer role, that's not relevant to me either. I've got to get through those applications quickly to get to the top 10, 20, or 30 applications to really have a look through. So I think that other key important thing on the profile is to actually have the title that's correct. Now, you may not be a graphic designer yet because you're still studying, but in your title, it could be aspiring graphic designer or aspiring copywriter or aspiring marketing manager. Don't keep your title as a barista if that's your part-time job. Make sure that you do have the right title in your profile.
Right, right. And I think that's really important, right? Because a lot of our, at least our participants, when they have their first LinkedIn, their title is student, right? Student of University of, right? Which is like that
Yeah.
doesn't give us so aspiring. But also the mistake that I see sometimes in my participants is that they say creative director when they're like, students, like you're not a creative director yet, right? You
That's also, yeah, exactly. And if you go on to LinkedIn, your profile up the top is different to what the jobs and roles and responsibilities are.
yeah.
Your title should be correct and your roles and responsibilities that you've had and your experience. But in your profile, I'm aspiring marketing manager or aspiring graphic designer or digital designer. Those keywords need to be relevant to the jobs that you are applying for.
Absolutely. And I think for all of you who are on this call, we did a workshop a couple days ago about resumes, which will probably be posted on our YouTube channel very soon. So if you want to revert back on how to utilize those keywords and how to,
Yeah.
for example, transform some of those non-relevant experiences that you have with some important keywords to make it a little bit more relevant, because of course, not all of you have already 3 internships in the field. How to utilize what you've got to make it a little bit more relevant. You can check it out there. And
Yeah.
and Justin as well, in terms of standing out on LinkedIn, I think if you're a creative, also as Vanessa said, having a beautiful banner as well that's representing your work and making sure that you're following all the right companies, in your industry, and having your folio, and those things are going to make you stand out as well, right? I think Vanessa, you have a
And I think most importantly, once you have done your profile and it looks awesome and you're following all of these companies and you're researching them, don't just leave it for a week. You need to go in there regularly. I recommend at the beginning, 15 minutes or half an hour every day, because the feed in LinkedIn works the same as the feed with Instagram. If you haven't logged in for a couple of days, you're going to miss some key opportunities.
Right, right, absolutely. And I think looking through the chat, Sarah was saying, coming back to like, do you have to contact the recruiter or do you just apply? Sarah was saying you also might get the wrong person. She's had several instances where the person whose name, is on the application post isn't the person who will be interviewing you, right? Is that correct,
Right.
Vanessa?
Yeah, that is correct. And that's why it's a great to follow the company,
Yeah.
because it might be the managing director if it's a small company that's posted the job, but it's really the account director who's looking for somebody, or it might be the HR manager that's posted the job, but it's the creative director that's going to go through the applications. So that's why it's important to follow the company, not necessarily the person that's posting the job.
Right, makes sense, makes sense. So that takes me to a question from Hema, who's saying, I'm finding it difficult to identify and connect with recruiters from the companies I'm interested in. What are the best ways to find and reach out to them? Let's say there's not an opening, like let's say there's not an open job applications, Vanessa. Like, do you have any advice for students and fresh grads to actually find like who are the right key people to maybe either follow or potentially contact for cold applications?
I think there's two sides to that, because there's two sides to recruiting. It can either be through a recruiter like myself or
Yeah.
through a company. Yeah. So that's why when you follow a company, also look, because we're talking in the creative field, follow the creative director, yeah, or the senior creative. You need to look for creative titles, yeah, either the senior designer or it might be the marketing manager. It needs to be somebody creative that you need to follow. It's very hard to find and follow the hiring managers of companies. So that's why it's super important to follow the company, because with companies on LinkedIn, anybody from that company can post. It can be the HR manager posting one day under the company. It could be the creative director posting one day under the company. So that's why it's so important to follow the company. Yeah. If you find out that, if you see comments from a creative director from the company, also follow them. Fine.
Right.
Then you have the recruitment. And again, as I said before, go off LinkedIn to go and Google recruiters, creative recruitment companies. Do your research on Google, whether the recruitment company recruits for roles that you are going for. You will then be able to find the right recruiter that can help you. For instance, at Aquent, we have creative recruiters, we have marketing recruiters, we have tech recruiters. By going on Aquent Australia webpage, everyone's profile will come up and say exactly what area they're recruiting in. So, for example, you should follow the company like Aquent because it's a recruiter, but then delve in deeper to find who is the recruiter that's specializing in your field, because we specialize in our fields. So all of
Right.
that recruitment research needs to be done off LinkedIn because it's easier. And then once you've found the right company and you've found the right recruiter, then go back on LinkedIn and follow those people.
I think that's a great advice, because it's true that if people want to go towards a tech role, if they contact you, you're not going to be necessarily the right person to chat with, right? So understanding who specializes in what, I think, is really important. And it's true that, like, one big advice that I would provide, which you actually exactly said, is find those recruiters and follow them on LinkedIn, because I follow Vanessa personally, and Vanessa is reposting jobs all the time that she's recruiting for, right? So, like, this is a great way for you to learn. You have those two things that you said: the company, you follow them to see opening jobs directly, but follow also targeted recruiters that are working for firms like Aquent. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more what a recruiting firm is, perhaps, because I'm not sure everybody knows, but that's a really great strategy, so you can see a lot of different roles for different clients, different types of companies, right?
Yeah. And also, I'm such a great person and want everybody to have a job that sometimes my colleagues or friends
Yeah.
may, or work-related friends may be posting something from their company, and I will actually write there, commenting here for my network to see. Because it might be a graphic design role for a small agency where they're not using a recruiter, and I really like this person and I really like this company. So I will comment on it saying, commenting here for my network to see, for all of my 10,000 followers to see.
Yeah.
This is how LinkedIn works.
I love
Um,
that.
I think that's a really good question about what recruiters do, because I think on a daily basis, I get 5 to 10 emails saying, can you find me a job?
Yeah.
Recruiters find people for jobs. We don't find jobs for people. It may sound the same, but it's not. So we get the jobs in. I go and find the jobs from my clients and get those jobs in. Then I find the right people for those jobs. So don't contact a recruiter saying, can you please find me a job? We don't find jobs for people, we find people for jobs. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a
So
really big distinction.
huge distinction. Yeah. So you actually work for the companies, right? I mean, you're mandated by companies that to help them with the recruitment process.
Yeah,
They basically outsource that to you, right? They're like,
yeah.
hey, we're looking for an in-house designer. Can you find that? And then you basically you push this role out, and then you recruit for them. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
I
I find people for jobs. I don't find jobs for people. Yeah.
Well, we find that we're a little bit on the opposite side. So
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
actually, that takes me to maybe doing a short break just to introduce a little bit more about the program. And then I
Sure.
want you all, because I have more questions, I want us to talk about AI afterwards, of
Yeah, we've got to get into AI.
big
Yeah.
topic. And then I want you all to like keep asking your questions for when I'm back. Let me just go ahead. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna go and share my screen. And obviously, Vanessa, you know the program so well at this stage, right? You've been with us for so long, so you probably have some interesting things to say about it too. But so let
Yeah.
me just explain a little bit about who we are. And again, for my participants, I apologize. My participants who are here, I apologize. You'll have to bear with me for those 10 minutes because you already know. But ArtBound Initiative, basically who we are is that we are a global career accelerator for creatives. So what we do is that we help students and fresh grads to enter the creative industries. And we do that by offering courses, by offering internships, by offering networking events, and really a community. So we have programs kind of all over the world, 3 in the US, New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, 2 in, I guess, Europe area, London and Berlin, 2 in Australia, Melbourne and Sydney. And we also have a virtual program for those who might not necessarily want to relocate or have the funds to relocate to those cities. In terms of the, I guess, scope of the opportunities that we provide for our participants, we're very niche, just like Vanessa, in the creative fields. So entertainment and media, marketing and advertising, design, fine arts, fashion, those are the fields that we do. If you're an engineer, we're not the right person for you. If you're in finance, we're not the right person for you. But if you're in any of those areas, definitely we can be relevant. So I'm not going to talk about all of those internship types, but if you all are interested, you can go on our website, you can read through all of them and see which are the ones that resonates the most to you. So in terms of the key inclusions of our program, there's 4 elements here. The first one is the ABI Academy. I think for some of our participants who have done the program in the past, that had changed a lot because we've just revamped it. Those are online courses that we organize that are all about entering the workforce, nothing theoretical, everything's pragmatic, really. That's what we try to do. The second element is that if you get accepted into the program, you will get a guaranteed internship placement, which obviously is a nice perk. Then you will have access to a creative network. So, you know, people like Vanessa Dolan, people like our alumni who are in the field, which obviously comes in handy when it comes to finding jobs later down the line. And then you'll have access also to a dedicated support throughout your time with the program. The Academy, just to, you know, summarize it very quickly, those are all online courses. You do it on Zoom on your own time with scheduling times. Like it's a mix of live classes, it's a mix of, you know, reviews, resume reviews, you know, a mix of some materials and videos as well. So there's 2 sections of it. The first one is all about preparing your profile, learning how to do interviews with somebody like Vanessa, for example, right? Learning how to ace interviews, which you all should ask questions about as well if we have time. Learning how to put together a great resume. Learning how to put together your portfolio with having some feedback from senior, you know, also industry professionals. So this is really the part to prepare you for the recruitment. And then after that, the second module is really preparing you for your internship itself. So you're going to have sessions with, again, senior people in the industry. You'll learn about the tools on how to, you know, clarify tasks, organize yourself during the internship, but also face challenges because there are challenges happening, you know, during an internship, and then also how to find jobs afterwards, how to work on your LinkedIn, all those things that we're talking about, we cover. Those are examples of our coaches. Vanessa's right there. So, you know, we have really cool people, you know, from Warner Brothers, MTV, you know, Omnicom Group, Ralph Lauren, Shutterstock, Aquant, you know, Vanessa obviously being here. So we're trying to bring really senior people that are also very generous with their knowledge and not gatekeepers, which is nice. So thank you for that, Vanessa. The second part is in the guaranteed internship. We offer internships year round, so fall, spring, and summer. Typically, they're ranging from 3 to 6 months. They can be part-time or full-time. They can also be for academic credit or not, if you want to do it just for experience. The one caveat that I want to be very transparent about is that we cannot guarantee paid internships. That's the one thing that I want to say from the get. because, it might be a deal breaker for some of you. And if that's the case, I totally get it. And if that's the case, it's not the right program for you. But we have a range of companies that we work with. Some, of course, do offer paid, but several of them also offer unpaid. So that's the part that we cannot, control as much as possible. But that's the same with or without a program, right? So however, we have a good conversion rate actually when it comes to our local programs. If you're a fresh grad or a senior, we've had actually 60% of our participants who ended up getting either full-time, freelance, or part-time roles after their internship. So that's something that we're very proud of. So, we work with a lot of different partners. Those are some examples of bigger names that we've had over the years, like CBS and Vice and TBWA. But we also work a lot with boutique firms, which are amazing for exposure, specifically as first steps, right? Because those big guys also typically want to see 2 to 3 internships before they hire you, right? Which is a reality. So examples of some more like boutique firms, like places like Spring Studios in New York. Example as well of like Picture North, which is a production company in Chicago with opportunities in entertainment. Example of Factory PR, really cool PR and advertising agency in LA. Example of Raptor, a really cool marketing agency in London with opportunities in like advertising and strategy and content. Somos Art House, an art gallery in Berlin that's doing, gorgeous work and exhibitions with artists from all over the world. Milkman, I think that Vanessa, well, creative agency in Melbourne, very cool and young and fun clients, and then Collider production studio in Sydney. Those are just one example for each destination, just to give you a bit of a look and feel of how those companies might look like. The third aspect of our program is the support. If you're going overseas, let's say you're from the US and you go to Berlin, or you're from Melbourne and you want to go to New York, for example, we're going to handle the visa processing, the insurance, the housing. So all the relocation processes we tackle because we know that it's the hustle part. So we'll take care of it with you. And then we'll meet you as well upon arrival for an in-city orientation. And then finally, in terms of, the support that we offer, you will have access to program coordinators that are going to be there from the onboarding to setting up interviews with companies to preparing your resumes, your portfolios, the visa process, everything. So when you're in the program, throughout the very end, you have people that are going to support you, including in-city coordinators that are going to organize events every month so that you all can meet up with the community. The last part of the program, but for me, which is probably the most important one, because that's the one that actually you can capitalize on and leverage on for many, many years, and Vanessa really knows about this, is our community and our creative network. So we have an app that we've created. I think Vanessa, you might be on it, I'm not sure, but you are. Yeah, so it's an app that's a lifetime membership. We have 1,000+ alumni that are on it. You can chat with them. We're sending job boards every month as well on our end. We're organizing workshops like this one, industry talks. So this is really your place, so that you can evolve and grow in this industry. And hopefully you can start meeting as well with some of our alumni. We've got alumni that went into freelancing, into small firms, mid-sized firms, big firms like Apple, NBC, CBS, Saatchi and Saatchi, Netflix, Google, TikTok, L'Oreal. So it's a really great community that we've built, and it's small because although 1,000 people might sound like a lot, it's actually very small for an alumni network. So it's very close knit, which is nice. And I see here alumni from my part, some of my alumni on this call as well. So, we're still very much engaged. So if you are interested in the program, I highly recommend for you to go on our website to find out all the information that you need about all the programs, including the tuition. As any educational program, it has a cost, right? So really important for you to take a look at the tuition, to the scholarships that we also offer, to kind of check out if that's the right fit for you, looking into the timeline, the types of internships. If you're ready to apply, you need to submit an application form on our website. You will have an interview with our admissions team. And then after that, we'll let you know whether we're able to accept you into the program or not. And then you can make your decision. There's an upcoming deadline on June 10. So we have two different kind of crowds here. I think we have actually more, but for our Australians on this call, because I think we have a few as well. So if you're interested in going abroad for the summer, which is going to be confusing for our US people, but the summer for you is November because it's reversed. So if you're interested in your summer term, which is November, to go overseas, you need to apply by June 10. Really important for you to remember this deadline. For our US crew who is on this call, the next deadline for you, summer is obviously past, right? For you, which is May, June, July, August. So the next application deadline on June 10 will be for fall, okay? So September, October start dates, all right? So just wanted to make sure that you all know. If you want, you can check if you're eligible on our website. We have an eligibility form because not everybody is eligible. And then if you're ready to apply, we have an apply page. So that's a little bit more, about the program in itself. I just wanted to make a break. Vanessa, what has been some highlights for you, like working in the program and having been, having mentored all those students over the years?
I personally love getting feedback. I do a lot of mock interviews and folio reviews. I love getting feedback where graduates say, "Oh my God, I went to the interview and I aced it and I've got the internship. And thank you so much for everything that you told me. It was so different to what I was expecting in an interview." And yeah, I mean, that's why it's so important. Everybody at ArtBound, all the coaches at ArtBound still are working in their industry. Kevin is still a creative director and giving folio advice. I am a recruiter and giving mock interview advice.
Right.
Everybody at ArtBound is so relevant to the modules and the course and the information.
Right. Right. No, I love that. And you've definitely helped uh, I don't know about how many in the thousands, but you've definitely helped a lot of them for sure, getting those interviews and getting those internships. So thank you for
And
that.
I think, down the track when I actually place somebody in a role, in a junior role, that just warms my heart as
That's
well.
right.
And
That's right.
that has happened a few times now. And we're just so proud coming through that process.
I
So
love that. I love that. So actually talking about the interview, there's a question from Danilo, and then I want us to talk a bit about AI. But there's a
yeah.
question from Danilo who's saying, is it normal to email your recruiter after you did your interview? And if yes, when? Is it after 1 week, 2 weeks? So that's a great question, you all, because you must know about it.
I think it is a great question. I think if you have had an interview with them, and out of all the applications, if you did actually get an interview, you are doing an awesome job. I think the next day after the interview is awesome, and it really just needs to be a very quick one. Don't recap on anything. Just say, "I really appreciate the time spending interviewing with you." Sometimes you may have had to get back to them with either a piece of work or some information that you didn't have on hand. You can do that. You can say, "As we discussed, I'm getting back to you on this," and sending it through to them. But not a whole lot of information. If you appreciate the roles that we're doing, we're searching for people, we're getting messages on LinkedIn, we're getting messages in our emails, just try not to overload them too much.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Justin is asking how important is it to send up a follow-up message or email after an interview. I would say for me it's extremely important if you've talked to an interview to somebody like you, for example, if you talk to a recruiter, I would say for me like to send a thank you note is crucial. I feel like I mean it is a small step, as you said, should be short. It's a small
Yeah,
step,
very good. Yeah.
but I feel like it could be, I mean, sometimes it could be also a make or break, right? In terms of the work ethic of candidates, how they like, would you agree with that? That like the thank you note is quite important?
I do agree with it. Yeah, if the interview went really well, if it's very clear during the interview that you're not moving to the next phase, then maybe not.
Yeah,
A lot of it is really you need to give and take. You need to see. You need to read the room. Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, but I do think it's something so small and so quick that you can do that I think it's key. But yeah, leave it until the next day. Not
Yeah.
too long down the track. I think a week is too late. I think the next day is fine.
Yeah, and then I guess one question that's not asked here, but just to kind of get your 2 cents is, if let's say you had a good interview, right? Let's say I spoke to you, it went well, you told me that you'll let me know about the next steps, and then I sent you the thank you note the next day, and then I don't hear back from you in like a week or two. Like when is it appropriate for me to follow up with you about the next steps, whether I'm continuing on with the process?
I think it's a great question, and I think that you should ascertain that before the end of the interview.
Okay.
If they say, "Oh yeah, we'll get back to you," it's like, "Great, when will you get back to me?" Just so I can set the expectations. Will it be one day or will it be 1 week? We will know. Because the person interviewing you will know where you are in the line of interviews. There could
Yeah.
be 10 interviews and you could be the first person, so it could be next week. You could
Yeah.
be the last person and they're going to make a decision tomorrow. So it could be tomorrow. I
Yeah.
think you should ascertain that and ask that question towards the end of the interview. What are the next steps and when will you be in contact with me again? So you
Yeah.
know.
Love that. I think that's a great tip because actually that's something that I'm going to steal from you because I didn't think about doing that and asking that right during
I'm
interviews.
actually going to add that question to, to my questions in the mock interviews. I think it's also a good one.
So let's talk a bit about AI because I feel like it's
Yeah.
the $1 million question, right? Everybody's using, I mean, I'm guilty of it. I use ChatGPT every day, multiple times
Yeah.
in my life
Yeah.
now. What are your thoughts on the role of AI now, like in the hiring process, in terms of putting applications together? Like, what are you seeing? Maybe some do's and
Okay.
don'ts that you might have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love AI. I'm really embracing it. It's actually multiplying me as a person. So I absolutely love it. For recruitment, it's going to make it much easier to find the right person. And that's beneficial for you, and it's also beneficial for me. So when I am now looking for somebody, let's use an example. I Maybe I'm looking for a digital designer that has Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Figma, and After Effects. Yeah, the top three being Photoshop, Figma, and After Effects. I am going to key into LinkedIn or our recruitment database that I'm looking for a digital designer based in Melbourne, Photoshop, Figma, and Illustrator. It will find all those people that I'm looking for. I can either say, find me the top 20 or the top 50, and then I can go in and have a look. What's really important about that is that you have to set your profile and your CV up correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your CV, don't say that you use Adobe Creative Suite because that's not going to pick up
Mm,
Photoshop or Illustrator or After Effects. Yeah. Those things really need to be spelt out, both on your LinkedIn profile and also on your CV. We need to we need to know that AI is not super duper sophisticated. It
right.
is looking for keywords, and those keywords really need to be found on your resume and on your LinkedIn profile.
Mm,
Yeah, it's really, really important, which actually comes to my next point about, you may be asking, should I write a cover letter? I personally don't read cover letters because I know they're all written by ChatGPT. So they're all going to be perfect. Yeah. The one thing that I would write in the cover letter, if it specifically asks for a cover letter, is to actually address the person by name. I
okay.
really hate it when I have advertised a job with my name written on it and it says, Dear Sir or Madam, yeah,
Mm,
or Dear Hiring Manager. You
mm,
know, it's only that one thing that is going to make your cover letter unique to me is, have you actually written my name
yeah.
on there? Or
Yeah.
is it just generic? That's why I personally don't like cover letters because they're so generic. Yeah.
Right. Right.
But if you are writing a cover letter, then make sure that you have seen the job that you're applying for and you do say, I see that you're looking for these skills. I do have these skills. Not
Right.
like I tick all of your boxes and I'm going to be the perfect candidate, because that doesn't relate to anything. So
Right.
going back to AI reads keywords. Make sure that you have keywords on your profile or and your LinkedIn profile.
And a great way to do that is actually you could even use AI for that in terms of like, let's say for example, Vanessa posts a job description, a job that has a job description. You could even potentially utilize ChatGPT to input that job description and be like, can you highlight for me, 7 to 10 keywords of that role, and then seeing how you can input that right in some ways in your resume
Yeah.
and kind of transform. Is that a strategy that would make sense for people to
It
do?
is a strategy as long as it's correct, because I have also had cover letters where they've done that and
Yeah,
they've said, yeah, I do all of these things. I do this, this, and this, and this. And then I go to their website and I can't
yeah,
see any of that work at all. So that's personally why I don't trust cover letters, because I don't know if they're right or not.
yeah, yeah.
But, and that's why your CV needs to be correct. Your profile needs to be correct. And what is in your folio needs to reflect what you say that you're doing.
That's true. That's super important, right? You need to look consistent. And
It's important.
what are your thoughts on, like, because I've spoken with hiring managers who like told me that they exactly what you're saying. They said that we posted an internship, we received like 300 applications, 250 of them looked exactly the same. Like the cover letters looked exactly the same because they were all written with ChatGPT, right? And for them, for example, cover letters were important because they were actually like hoping to put that as a part of the process. So
Sure.
is there any advice that you have in terms of how to utilize AI, of course, for some basic kind of work, but like, let's say if the cover letter was actually important. I know you don't really necessarily care about it, but
Yeah.
some internships might care. Would you recommend for people to actually take the time and, like, obviously addressing the person with the correct name is number one, like what are other tips?
And really looking through that job description of what they're looking for,
Yeah,
and even and relating it back to your skills as well. So they might list 5 key skills or experience that they're after, and you may only have 4.
right.
Therefore, your cover letter should say, I have all of these skills and experience. I don't have the last one, but I'm really willing to learn and I'm open for, guidance and mentoring. That would be a cover letter that stands out to me, saying, I don't have everything, but I'm really passionate about learning. And as you can see from my past, I've done this and this and this. So I'm sure I can learn it, because all of the cover letters and all of the emails addressed to me for any role I have is saying, I can answer all of what you're looking for. And it's never the case.
Right, right. So you actually value honesty and more like kind of candidness, right? Being like, look, I don't
Yes,
have
I
that,
do.
but I'm really eager to kind of, to
Yeah, in the
learn.
world of ChatGPT, I really want people to be honest and say, I'm coming to the table with these 3 or 4 things. I'm missing these 2, but I know that, I can really get there with your guidance and mentoring.
I love this. I think that's a great advice for you all. So I have a question from Vijay. I was saying, does the resume have to follow the industry standards, or can they be creative in presentation?
Really good question. At this stage, 2 years ago, I would have said be really super duper creative, but now with AI, I would say don't be creative at all. And especially if you're using colors and graphs and illustrations, AI is not going to be able to read it. So if the recruiter or hiring manager is using AI to scan the CVs and your profile, if it's too creative, you're actually going to miss out. Yeah. Your creativity should be in your folio and the work that you have done, not the way in which your CV looks like. Yeah. It really needs to be a basic black and white CV, and you can get those awesome templates from Canva.
Yeah, yeah. And we utilize also on our end like resume.io, which is like, I think it's a couple, but I mean, Canva is free, so it's even better. I think resume.io is a couple bucks to get your resume kind of like,
Also good.
but it's like templated, and then you
Yeah.
can even have like, yeah, it's and at least it's making sure that it's getting read, right, and crawled, right? Because I think that's a really important, actually that's something that I didn't even realize is the importance of making it industry standard so that it can be read by AI, right? If all of you are now utilizing this, like
Super
this is so
important.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite CVs is from an illustrator, and it's beautifully done. But that was 2 years ago. AI would not be able to read that now, and then they would miss out on opportunities. So don't make the CV too creative. Where you really need to stand out is your portfolio and your LinkedIn.
Exactly. Yeah, you can have other platforms to showcase that, and your resume can be really more just the document that gathers all those keywords and skill sets that are going to allow you to pass to the next step of the
Yeah.
interview, right? I would assume. Okay. Wow, that's really good advice. That makes me want to like double check.
And that's really that, my advice has changed literally in the last 2 months because of AI and what it's doing.
Wow, wow, that's
Yeah.
super interesting. Yeah, things are changing so quickly. So
Yeah.
you all are doing good to be on this call because now you know. So I have a question from Lucette who's saying, how many pages should a resume count, and how many pages should a cover letter be? I think there might be different answers based on your region, but maybe you can tell us what your thoughts are, Vanessa, on this.
A cover letter should be no more than a page. We just don't have time to read through more than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no more than a page for the cover letter. Resumes and CVs, I think at this stage of your career, one page.
Yes. Okay, great. We're on the same page because the US, for example, is one pager for sure. Like unless you've got 10 years of experience or 15 years of experience, then can be 2 pages. But I know in Australia it varies a little bit, right? Because I've seen some of our students like come with 2 to 3 pages.
I don't know. I mean, also, LinkedIn, you can go into more detail on LinkedIn. As I said, that's your CV in a electronic format online. Go into much more detail on LinkedIn. Try and stay, and you're going to have the link to your LinkedIn on your CV anyway. So,
Yeah,
they're going to
to see this, right?
they're going to link back. They're either going to find you from LinkedIn, or they're going to receive a CV and they're going to go back to LinkedIn.
For sure. And I think one page, when you are in the beginning of your career is enough, it's enough because
Really.
you need to
Yeah.
curate, and chances are, chances are at this stage you only have one page worth of actually relevant experience, otherwise the rest might be a bit fluff, right? And you're noticing Vanessa is telling you how quickly she has to review applications.
1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute. And that's probably if you have also a portfolio and things like that, because actually there's been numbers that are showcasing that some recruiters are taking 7 seconds in average to scroll through just a resume, like just the resume part, right? So
We do it so quickly. We do it so quickly. And that, that means that we're going through it in 1 minute or 7 seconds to get our top 10 or 20
right.
that we then go back and spend, minutes looking through and really going in depth, but we
Yes.
can get through them really, really quickly. The 100 or 500 applications we get through very, very quickly before
Right.
we get to that top 10, top 20 to further review.
No, that's an important thing to know. I have a question from Logan, which is about the program. Is what are some specifics to being eligible for the ArtBound Initiative program? So Logan, just so you know, typically, obviously, you want to pursue a creative career. That would be number one, right? Design, entertainment, fashion, etc. We're going to take a look also whether you're a student or a recent graduate. We do accept both. You cannot be a first year student. That's the only thing that doesn't work, and you can't have graduated for 10 years because then we're not going to be relevant to you, right? So we accept both students and fresh grads. And then if you want to go overseas, there might be additional eligibility requirements. What's your citizenship? What's your student status? Because then there's there's visa requirements that are outside of our control. So my advice to you is like, you can check on our website. I'm going to put that again, the eligibility form here, so that way you can fill out your info and we can tell you whether you're eligible. It will tell you like in a couple days whether we're good or not. So those are just kind of some examples. Hope that helps, Logan, and let me know if you have further questions. So I have one last question because I want to I'm conscious of time and I know we have 3 minutes left. So I have a question from
Sure.
Bridget who's saying, if there if there is no hiring manager name at first glance on a job opening, do you recommend doing some quick research to try to find that name? I'm always nervous about getting a name wrong. So yes, that's a good question as well for the cover letters or materials.
Yeah, any job ad will actually say, contact this person, or it's always got to be, especially on LinkedIn, it will always be posted by a person. Sometimes it is the company, but then read through the whole job ad and it will tell you who to address the letter to or who it needs to go to. It's all about, and I think you said a quick glance. It needs to be a much longer glance to see
Right.
who the letter needs to be addressed to, if a letter needs to actually be done.
Yeah, exactly,
I don't
exactly.
ask for one.
Yeah.
Is
See
it
you later.
asking for a letter or is it not? Or is it, asking, like yesterday I had a very specific packaging role where I needed to see packaging for toys, games, or educational examples. People sent me through all sorts of things that wasn't relevant. I'm like, you didn't read the job ad. You've just applied, which is wasting your time and your hopes and also wasting the time of the recruiter as well. So read through the job ads once or twice in fine detail so you can read exactly what they are looking for and
Yeah.
don't assume.
Yeah, yeah. And I think by doing that, you'll have a much better chance to get through that first,
Yeah.
big batches of rejections and getting into that top 20 or top 10. So definitely quality over quantity is really important in the job search, right?
Yeah.
That's really important to kind of think through. So, all
Yeah.
right, everybody. Well, I am conscious of time and I know it's 59 now, and I know for a lot of you it's late. I'm so sorry that I wasn't able to get through all questions, but I think we've got so many of them for today. Vanessa, thank you so much for being,
Oh, you're welcome.
not a gatekeeper, telling us how it is, like just always being so generous with your knowledge. I think this is so appreciated and just super helpful, really, for all
Yeah.
of these people on this
And
call.
that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help. I want everybody to be successful and everybody to get a job. So if you're located in Australia, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're not in Australia, then by all means you can follow me on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, so much. And have a great rest of your night if you're in the US, rest of your day if you're in that side of the world. And Vanessa, thank you again so much.
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. See you all.